handler sends default event as argument implicitly. Event handler sends default event as argument implicitly. So you can access element and event details. You can access element and event details by using an event reference. You can access element and event details. You can access element and event details by using an event reference. Means what? We have a function handle click. Into that we pass an e. How to access the details? E dot client x, e dot client y, e dot key code, just like yesterday I told you. These are all what? Event properties. E dot target dot id, e dot target dot name. These are what? Element properties. We can access both event and element properties like this. So here all techniques we will learn first here. Two-way binding, just I showed you. I will show in an example how to implement that. We will learn that. Just I showed you what is on change and how it is required. But first thing, you have to try this and you should check whether it is working fine or not. So what you have to do, suppose we are having a button have an ID, btn insert button have a name, so insert button have insert. Okay, we will write a function handle click and e. Now I will put a console log. Through e I can access all element and event details. I am just using button id. How to access it? E dot target dot id. I want to access button name, so e dot target dot name. I want to access X position where they clicked, then e dot what? Client X directly we can do. And on button click, on click, we have to use handle click. And observe here, it is going to get that and show the details. Button ID, button name, button position, everything we are able to access. So this is fine. That means we know how to collect the events. Now the question is how to send custom arguments. This example I will give. This is for general event arguments. Now how to send custom arguments? That means I don't want default arguments. I want to send my own arguments. How you send your own arguments? Actually what you do, if you want to send your own arguments, then here what we have to do is handle click. Here we need to define a function like this. That means we have to allocate memory. Constructor na, it is a constructor allocating memory. Into that you pass the data. Suppose I am passing 1, I'm passing TV. I'm passing like city. So Delhi like this and Hyderabad like this. Now I am passing three arguments. Then obviously you need three parameters. One for ID, another for name, another for cities. Or you can use REST parameter. REST parameter is what? Suppose params, and what we will do? We will create a variable ID, name, and cities. Into that we will pass params. This is nothing but it is REST parameter destructuring, array destructuring. And what we are doing? We are printing the details, ID. So how to get the ID? ID. In the next line, name. How to get the name? Name. In the next line, cities. How to get the cities? Cities. Directly we can access. And you can see on this button click, it should get that and display them. And observe carefully, it is already collecting those details, right? I will tell you why it is already collecting the details. How do we send the arguments? I will tell you. What happened is you created a event handler. Into the memory directly you passed the values and it is collecting the values and using the values. That means what is happening is it is directly initializing the values and allocating the memory even before you clicked it. Even before you clicked it, it is sending the data directly into that. No, I want the memory to be allocated only when I click. Then what we have to do is you need to configure here like a function. You need to configure like a function. Then what will happen is when you configure like a function, this function will be returned only when you click. That means what will happen now? You see it is empty now. And when I click, then only it will get the data. Otherwise, what it will do is I will refresh here. Observe carefully. If I don't do this, then directly the data will be passed into it. So we don't want that to happen. So on click, it has to return the function. Then you can see that it is going to return the function only when I click. So if anyone asks how we can send default arguments, if you want to send default arguments, you don't need to do anything. Why? Because by default, these default arguments are available. Do I need to send default arguments? No. In JavaScript, you have to send. You have to use this. You have to use event. Here in React, you don't need to send default arguments. Default arguments are available. Just use them. How to send custom arguments? Through event function, you can send custom arguments. Now in interview, they ask how to send both. How to send both event arguments and default arguments. I want to send both event and default arguments. Then you have to pass an event inside this function. And that event you need to pass here. And that actually, this refers to what? Event. This refers to what? Event. And we will collect that event here. That event we will collect here. Now, can we have normal arguments along with REST parameters? Yes. But REST parameter must be last. Na? Through E, I can access button details and others. If you want button detail, then how to do? Button ID. How to access button ID now? Event dot target dot what? ID. So this time what I am doing, I am sending the custom argument and default argument. We can send only custom arguments. We can send only default arguments. We can send both custom and default arguments. So let's take this syntax clearly to understand. So here you can configure event with custom arguments. You can configure event with custom arguments. How? Button on click is equal to a function handle click. Into that You can pass the value like 1, 2, 3, like this we can pass. Now how function can access? Handle click, it can access A, B, and C. You can individually collect them or you can collect as REST parameters. You can collect as REST. You can configure event with both default and custom arguments. You can send your own arguments and you can send custom arguments, default arguments. How? On click, it uses an event. Handle click, we have to send event, we have to send 1, 2, 3. That means now function uses handle click, it uses E and A, B, C, or we can just put params. So rest of other parameters, you know what is this params? Params is an array with 1, 2, and 3. You know that. That's a rest parameter, means it is an array type. Right. So you need to define this. So default arguments, custom arguments, default and custom arguments, both, right? I'll just copy this example. And this is an example showing both of them. So now we got one clarity on how to write events in React. Understood now? How to write a function, how to point towards the function, how to pass arguments, how to collect them and use them. Now we will implement this in example. We will design, already we designed a shopping example. Now we will learn first all important events, examples, mouse events, keyboard events, button events, how they work, where they have to be used. We will learn one by one example with events that we'll see tomorrow. Right, in tomorrow's session, now we are going to implement this and design one example. We will make the example work. We designed a shopping app, we will make it work by using these events. Tomorrow we will continue with that. Okay, right.